All right, graphing these four different quadratics. This first one, x squared plus 8x plus 2, the red group, you should have coordinates of 0, 2, 1, 11, 2, 22, and so on and so forth in that direction. And then at a negative 1, you should get a negative 5. And at a negative 2, it should be a negative 10. And a negative 3 should be a negative 13. A negative 4 should be a negative 14. And a negative 5 should be a negative 13 again, which starts the whole process of going back up. And so 0, 2, 1, 11, negative 1, negative 5, negative 2, negative 10 is down there, negative 3, negative 13, negative 4, negative 14, negative 5, negative 13. So negative 6 must be a negative 10. Negative 7 has got to be a negative 5. Negative 8 then must be 2. And so our parabola looks like this and like that. And our line of symmetry is right there at x equals negative 4, and the vertex, which is down there, would be a negative 4, negative 14. Then looking at this green one, you are going to have coordinates at 0, 3, 1, 6, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 3, 5, negative 2, and so on and so forth. And the negative 1 is also going to be a negative 2. So negative 1, negative 2, 5, negative 2 is here. 0, 3, 1, 6, 2, 7, 6, and 3. And it looks like that. Here's our line of symmetry, which is at x equals 2. And our vertex is at 2, 7. Moving to the blue one, on the blue one, we are going to have 0, 1, 1, negative 5, 2, negative 13, 3, negative 23, and I think we've gone far enough in that direction. At a negative 1, we'll be at a positive 5. Negative 2 is a positive 7. Negative 3 is a positive 7. Negative 4 is 5. And negative 5 is 1. So 2, 4, negative 5 is 1. Negative 4 is Negative 3 is 7. Negative 2 is also 7. Negative 1 is 5. 0 is 1. 1 is a negative 5, which must mean that this one is also a negative 5, and so our parabola goes like so. Now, with that particular one, I think our line of symmetry is going to be right in there. And it is. And so the line of symmetry in this case is x equals a negative 5 over 2. Now then, to find the vertex, it would be at 7 1/4. So that vertex is a negative 5 halves, comma, positive 7 1/4, which would be 29 over 4. Because 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29. And then our fuchsia group, you should have values for that one as, let's see, 0 is a negative 2, 1 is a negative 7, 2 is a negative 10, 3 is a negative 11, 4 is a negative 10, 5 is a negative 7, and so on and so forth. So let's see, 0 is a negative 2, 1 is a negative 7, 2 is a negative 10, 3 is a negative 11, 4 is a negative 10, 5 is a negative 7, 6 must be negative 2, and so it looks like this. And so this right there is our line of symmetry, which is at x equals 3. And the vertex down there is 3 comma negative 11. And so those are what those should be graphed, or the graphs should look like. And with all of them, these two, the vertexes are maximums, and this one have vertexes that are minimums. Now, we have to find a way to find that vertex and that line of symmetry without having to go through and plot all of these points. And also we should know some characteristics about this particular type of quadratic function, and even these ones that we had back here where we got things moved around a little bit left and right, and back here with these where it moved up and down some. As you know, this number at the end always is going to move it up or down some. This value in here is going to shift the graph left and right. It's kind of hard to tell, and when you get things both things happening, it moves it up and left and right. So then that comes to this particular page, and in here the standard form of a quadratic function looks like this: ax squared plus bx plus c. These values for a, b, and c are kind of important. The graph shape is a parabola, which a parabola looks like that, or possibly this. And the things that the a value tells you, if a is positive, the graph opens up. If a is negative, the graph opens down, which means that if it opens up, then the parabola has a minimum. And if the graph opens down, the parabola has a maximum. The value of A also tells you how wide or narrow it is. The bigger the number, the more narrow it gets. The smaller or closer, when it's less than 1 and greater than 0, the closer it is to 0, the wider it gets. So that's why there's an absolute value here, because if you have like 1/2, it's going to be like that. While a negative 1/2 is just the flip of it. It's still the same width. So you only look at that part of it to determine wideness and narrowness of your parabola. Then, trying to find the line of symmetry. That's what LOS stands for. Let me write. That's line of symmetry. To get that, if you look back even, let's go way back to these. Here they didn't change. The line of symmetry was still at 0 because there is no x term that affects it. Whereas here, when we did these, as you see, we have an x value, coefficient with the x. And with this red one, it was x squared plus 8x, and our line of symmetry was at a negative 4. And with the green one, the line of symmetry was at a positive 2, and with the fuchsia one, it was at 3, and the blue one, it was at 2.5. There was negative 2.5 for that one. And then if we move forward to these, same thing happened. When this was x squared plus 8x plus 2, our line of symmetry was a negative 4. When we had this one, the negative x squared plus 4x plus 3, our line of symmetry became 2. So now, like if you look at this one again, it's 8, and here it is a negative 4, which means it's the opposite of that, 1.5 of it. But if you look at this one here, it's a positive 4, and that's a positive 2, so yeah, it is half, but it's not the opposite anymore. So it's not just this thing that determines what happens to your line of symmetry. This also plays into it. And if you look over here at this one, if you take this number and cut it in half, that's 2.5, and oh, the hey, isn't that what that is? But it's a negative, so that should be positive, but then again, we have that negative, so that turns it back to negative. So these two things affect your line of symmetry, just like those two would. And here, if you take half of 6, it's 3, and then the opposite, which is half of negative 6 is a negative 3, and then the opposite of that, because that's what you do, it's 3. So now that I've confused you thoroughly, let's make it more simple. To find the line of symmetry, you have to take the b value, cut it in half, divide by 2, and also then multiply it by a negative 1, and then divide by a. Now, that sounds like an awful lot of junk to be doing. So instead of doing all of that, and dividing by b is the same as multiplying by 1 over a, well, now here's where multiplying with fractions is an important thing, because if you take b times a half times a negative 1 times 1 over a, put a 1 underneath this, put a 1 underneath that, and now you multiply everything in the top and everything in the bottom, and b times 1 is b, times negative 1 is a negative b, times 1 is still a negative b. Or the opposite of b if you want to look at it that way. Then we have 1 times 2, which is 2, times 1, which is still 2, times a is 2a. So, to find the line of symmetry, your x value is the opposite of b over 2a. Then, to find the vertex, the x value is your line of symmetry value. And then to figure out what the y value is, you just need to substitute a negative b over 2a into your equation to come up with what the y value is. And then finally, the other thing that you can find very easy in this particular case, and I'm going to get rid of that because you really don't need to know. Anytime you have to find the y-intercept of any type of equation, all you have to do is substitute 0 into the equation, and then you get what the y-intercept is. So as we move on to this example here, if this is our equation, before we even start graphing it, we know that this is going to be a parabola that opens upward. We know that this is going to be the same width as just plain old x squared because there is no number there. So that means that coordinate is there, and then from there you're going to go over 1 and up 1, and then over 2 and up 4 because that's what it does when you just have x squared. And so then if you want to, let's see, find the y-intercept, you would substitute a 0 there and a 0 there, and 0 squared is 0 plus 100 times 0, which is 0 plus 10. So the y-intercept is 0 comma 10. Then we know that the line of symmetry would be the opposite of 100 over 2 times 1, because there is no number here, so it's just 2 times 1, and that's a negative 100 divided by 2 is a negative 50. That's where our line of symmetry is. And then finally, if you want to find the vertex, that x value would be a negative 50, and then to find the y value you would have to put in a negative 50 here and a negative 50 there. And let's see, a negative 50 squared is 2500, and then 100 times a negative 50 is a negative 5000, and then plus 10, and if you combine all of those things, that's a negative 2500 plus 10 is going to be a negative 2490. If my math is correct. Hopefully you got that as an answer as well. And there you have it. So now, by sketching a graph of this, you know that the line of symmetry is way over here at a negative 50. And you know that the vertex is down here at a negative 2490, and it's going to cross, it's going like that, and that coordinate right there is 0, 10. Okay, so if you want to put this into your calculator to see a graph of it, you're going to need to adjust your viewing window quite a bit so that your x minimum, you should be able to go, because if this is 0, 10, there's a coordinate over here that's something comma 10. And what is that coordinate? Well, it's 50 to there, so it's another, so it's got to be a negative 100 comma 10. So in your x axis of your viewing window, you should at least have a negative 150, and your x maximum, oh, maybe you want to go to a positive 10. And then your y minimum, you would want to be at like a negative 2500, and your y max, you could be anywhere up in like say 100. That would get you up here and see a little bit of that. Probably don't need to see too much more than that. And that's how you would sketch this, and you should be able to plot some points on this. What you would want to do to plot some points is remember how to use the table feature of your calculator. If you don't recall, find somebody who remembers, because we went through that earlier this year. Okay? And so now you will be getting a worksheet to work on, and on that worksheet in the upper left hand corner there are 6 problems for you to graph, which are from 20 to 25, and I want you to graph them as accurately as possible. Figure out where the line of symmetry is, where is the vertex, tell me if that vertex is a maximum or a minimum, and also find the y-intercept, and then plot some points and sketch a very fine graph of it. Once you have those 6 done, then I want you to also answer question number 51. And that would be it. Those of you that need to finish the test, you should do that first, and then you can work on this over the weekend.